Hello, everyone, and welcome. So thrilled that you're here. If you're back, welcome back. If you're here for the first time, we welcome you with a warm welcome from both Sue and from myself, Lisa Leitl. We are here and we are from Holistic Dementia Services. Just want to touch a little bit upon Holistic Dementia Services and how we are just a little bit different in our offering out in the community. We serve the Central Florida community in person and online. And what we do is we serve both the individual diagnosed with any type of a dementia and also care partner. And we love to do that work together. So we bring both together at the table, which really makes our offerings unique. So we're thrilled that you're here. And I'm going to just talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. And it's really introductions. And we're going to handle that from three different perspectives. The I perspective, which is the individual with the diagnosis, how and when to introduce themselves, and do they want to talk about their diagnosis? And then the we, which is the care partner and the person with the diagnosis, and then the greater community, the they. And so, how do we handle introductions out in the communities that we're socializing in? So, I'm going to take this opportunity to turn it over to my wonderful work colleague, Sue Bouder. We are both professionals working in this field, and it is my pleasure to say hello, Sue, and welcome.
Hello, everyone. So glad to know that you're here. And as always, we're really encouraging you to be in touch with us. Let us know topics that you'd like us to cover that would be meaningful for you. Our focus really so often with diagnosis and with the course of the progression of a neurodegenerative disease, the focus is so often purely on the medical, and that is one facet. But I think that for us, the kind of the uniqueness that we want to bring is how to support and empower relationships. And so we are here available to you to consider, how can you continue to feel connected, whether you're the person with the diagnosis or you're a care partner, a friend, um, a healthcare provider, whoever may be listening here. We want to have your back, to have the greatest quality of true relationship, and think about tools and issues, and then tools and strategies for how to kind of wake up into new realities each day and be able to, in some way, still feel love and connection. So today, when we get started with introductions, there's really a couple of levels that we're thinking of, as Lisa was introducing. That uh, so there's the introduction of, and this is where I'm going to start with the introduction. If you are the person with the diagnosis of some form of dementia, that they're at some point, we want to get to how it is that others can support you in introducing yourself to have engaging with other people, um, as your symptoms change and may develop. First, though, we want to talk about, probably early on in a diagnosis, the decision about whether or not we want to share that diagnosis with anyone, with our workplace, with our even our friends and family. When do you introduce yourself as being in a new, challenged place? And is it important or not? Um, there's a Lewy body support group that I lead through Central Florida Lewy Body. It's called People with Lewy, and so that is just a Zoom support group twice a month for people who have been diagnosed with Lewy body dementia. Here we're addressing all forms of dementia, but in that. One of really a number of the members have talked about the difficulty of deciding at work. Um, what do I tell? And if I do tell that I have this diagnosis, what is important to tell? And who of my workmates is it important to share? My supervisor, my boss, my coworkers, and we want to say that that is totally up to you. That is whatever you are most comfortable with and what will truly support your best being able to relax and have your best focus at work. And I guess the only other thing before I turn back to Lisa is to say that a benefit of sharing your new place in life can be that then you don't worry about, are they noticing anything? Are they thinking that I'm different? So it can be, as I hear from some of the members in my support group, that they waited and that felt right to them, not to immediately tell. But then they also talked about how there's an easing, a kind of relaxing, a shoulder dropping when there's the freedom to say, hey, you know, here, none of us are perfect, right? All of us have our challenges. And I think that in general, when we take the risk of being authentic with what we're experiencing with life, there can be great benefits. Lisa, what else in this arena of sharing would you like to talk about?
Yeah, thanks. The one thing that was coming up for me as I was just listening to you talk about the vulnerability of stepping in and sharing with both people at work, friends and family. We just want, I really was hearing, I want to acknowledge it's a lot just to acknowledge it with yourself,
Mhm,
to
mhm,
really say like, wow, this is what is happening for me. That's a hard enough ask for us just to acknowledge for ourselves that we are experiencing this particular brain change. So I want to say to anyone out here right now that's listening that has been diagnosed, we, to the best of our ability, understand it because we sit at the table with those that are diagnosed. And it's really difficult. It's a shock. And it takes time to deal with the information that was just given based on whether it was a week ago or 6 months ago. And everyone walks that road differently. I would say treat it almost as if it's a loss or a grief, because that's kind of the road and the path that I see anyway with people with a diagnosis like this is there's this sense of, oh my goodness, I'm starting to lose things. And so give yourself time just to make that adjustment internally. And then when you are feel a little more solid in that, that might be the ideal time to step out. But I was just experiencing some of what does come up around the table about just, wow, I'm not even willing to really, I don't have a handle on this myself. How can I share it with others when I can't fully grasp the idea that this is a potential reality in my life? So just want to say we see that and we hear you. So this is not an easy thing. And know that we are here to support that. So you can reach out to us anywhere at any time, and we'd be happy to discuss that with you because we understand the unique psychological challenges that are going on there. So I hope that helps for anyone that might be listening. And I also wanted to step in at this point and just talk about the care partner in this journey. And they've shared how they are challenged with number one, it's really important that they hear their loved ones' desire about where they're feeling about who they want to tell this to at what time, when are they ready to kind of say this to certain people, and that care partner really honoring that request. And there are also times when they are going out into the world at research facilities and doctors' offices where they're a little uncomfortable because they aren't quite sure, how do I introduce myself? And then I don't want to say, and this is my loved one that's been diagnosed with dementia. So it's really just easier to say, hi, I'm Lisa. I'm the care partner, and this is my loved one. It kind of just removes a little bit of that stress. So I hope that that little tip kind of helps with, as we're moving kind of more into the relation of care partner and that individual diagnosed, that there are easier ways in which to just kind of put it on you first, that you're the care partner, and it removes the stress. And then your loved one can then step in and either just say their name and or if they are ready to say their name and their diagnosis. But that would then be up to them, I think, at that point. So I think that's a good bridge in the beginning when everyone is still able to introduce themselves to handle it in that way. So Sue, I'm going to ask, is there anything in that that you've seen out in the world, a care partner and person with the dementia diagnosis where you feel this is something I've heard they struggle with, and this might be a tool and a skill they can use to kind of ease those introductions?
Well, I'm thinking about how, as long as possible, everyone in your partnership, in your marriage, and your friendships want to continue to go out into public as much as possible. So now it's literally not introducing the fact that there's dementia, but the sensitivity for you all who are care partners or friends, um, sharpening your sensitivities to noticing when your loved one is uncomfortable, that maybe they don't recognize someone. They seem to be kind of fidgeting, and you realize that even though this is somebody that you both have known for a long time, they're not recognizing. So there are some simple things which I hope that you're already doing, but definitely, like I'm thinking of being at a concert, and afterwards people are coming up, and so for sure, just like in doctor's offices, but here in the connecting with a friend, you want to make sure as a care partner that you are doing your best to um, have that person look directly and engage directly with your loved one. How you can sort of bridge. I like that language of bridging, Lisa. That how you can bridge and kind of ease again any discomfort that you feel from your loved one. You can say, hey, Barbara, so good to see you." Um, you know, and just say that person's name, and then go ahead and visually turn your eyes to your loved one so that you will help the other person to not only talk with you, right? There's this tendency out in the community and in healthcare visits for the other person to engage with the care partner. And so what we want to do is really have the backs of the persons with the dementia to make sure that they're having as much direct communication as possible. And so to enable that, you will also need to just kind of graciously help the person that you're with to be reminding of who this is. And whether it's a new person and you might say, "Oh, Fred, you haven't met my friend Barbara. We know each other through our church group or our synagogue, but you haven't had a chance to meet." So just kind of giving that kind of relaxed, gracious segue or bridge to now help your loved one with dementia to be able to relax and perhaps actually be able to engage. Um, and then, if this is a person who already knows that your loved one has a dementia diagnosis, you're also helping to ease them, actually, which is a lot on the shoulders of care partners. I know that that's part of what can become very exhausting and is really a lot for you to also be taking care of yourself. Um, and this is just part of what is necessary if you really want to um, support each other to have genuine relationships, authentic communication. Um, what else, Lisa, for you comes to mind about some of those public situations right now for the care partner? We want to speak in a moment to how the people who are going to be, coming toward you as a person with the dementia or as a couple. But for now, just kind of looking at the care partner, what are some of the other things that you would say, Lisa, that could really help care partners to learn how to better support their loved one in being able to communicate?
Yeah. The one thing that I was recognizing as you were expressing those social dynamics, and there is this tendency, especially once somebody out in our community might be aware of the diagnosis, where they will direct the conversation toward the care partner. And I think one of the things that I definitely do during our support time, even during introductions when people are coming in the room, is I will create, if it's just one person that's coming up to the couple, I'll make a triangle, right? So you even out the space in between, and it really shifts the dynamic because now they are, if they're going to direct it all toward care partner, they're very aware that they're leaving this other individual out, and the tendency then is not to do that. So instead of standing side by side, a really great way to kind of just recognize that we are all individuals and independent with self-agency is to make that wonderful triangle. And if it's four people, make a square, right? Always put it where there's like an even distance. So it's not looked at as you are one unit, but you are, yes, you're a loving couple or your friends, whatever your relationship is, but you are also individuals. So physically, we can create that with the way that we stand in those situations. So I think that's the thing that I would add to what you just said, Sue, is just physicalizing it. It works really well for me, at least when I'm doing that. When I see somebody directing conversations just toward me, I'll immediately shift, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, and they're talking to the individual with dementia. So hope that that little tip helps when you're out in the world. Yeah. Do you want me to step into some of the community conversations I've
Yeah,
had?
let's shift there. That's great.
Yeah. So what I have seen, because our kind of our antenna are up. So we can't not have our antenna up when we're out in communities now. So as I'm out in communities, and I am aware that there are individuals now in certain communities I belong to that are struggling with brain changes. I see the physical and the way in which people greet differently. It's really interesting to watch. Either they kind of stand off now and are almost afraid to approach or speak to because not quite sure how to handle that if it doesn't go the way they had anticipated. So there's almost either, I don't want to say ignoring because it's not quite that, but it is different. There's not the like, oh, hi, so and so, the way it would have been prior. So I just invite anyone that's in a community and you are aware that somebody does have brain changes, even if they're having a struggle remembering who you are, they may not know your name. They will know what you're feeling. So really approach them in a loving, open, and kind-hearted way. And you can say their name and say, oh, I would say, so and so, it's Lisa. It's so good to see you. They're going to feel the way you're feeling when you approach them. So don't be concerned about what comes next. Just really greet them the way you might have. And if you're at all aware that, oh my goodness, they don't know who I am, that's okay. You can still say their name and then follow up with your name. It'll really help ease some of that tension and that uncomfortableness. So that's one of the things that I've seen out in communities. It's just there's like this slight shift of I'm unsure how to handle this. I'm not sure what to do. I don't think they know who I am. And it's all okay. I think just recognizing that most importantly, they're going to pick up on how you feel. So be that loving, open person that you always were with them, and they're going to feel that. And if you stumble and bumble, that's okay. Because guess what? They're uncomfortable about the fact that they are stumbling and bumbling. So you give them permission, right? You're almost saying it's okay because I'm imperfect too, and I'm probably going to mess this up. So the more we can just step in raw like that, I think it's really going to open up better communication. And even if it's just sitting quietly with them, right? Just being with them, being present with them. It doesn't always have to be about conversation. And I think the conversation part is what gets in the way sometimes of those community relationships continuing once we're aware that there's those brain changes. So, Sue, what else have you
Yeah,
experienced? And
with all of the brain changes, we know that there's a slowdown of the speed of processing. Most of us, I'm even hearing it as we're talking today, right? We get caught up into what we're thinking about and we tend to speed up. And so we know this, but it can never be said frequently enough that we need to slow down, allow pauses. We tend to like want to fill the space. How did that just feel if I just had a very brief pause to collect myself, to, um, yeah. So we can help by um, by slowing, by pausing, and really want to be about easing anxiety, right? Easing anxiety for one another, um, being able to create space um, for the caring to continue. Now, very often we'll come in, and some of the tools are just they're difficult to incorporate into our communication practice, like slowing and pausing. There are also some very like fine tuning of very simple things. So often at our many churches, synagogues, mosques, senior centers have name tags, and that is very, very helpful. However, that being said, most places have name tags that are quite small. And so, a way to advocate in these larger community settings is to go to whoever is the person involved with hospitality and ask them, take in a sample. Um, this is how large this needs to be, and also, hopefully the magnetic kind of name tags. But if it's a lanyard, making sure that it's high enough that that the person can see, and like dark enough print, just large characters. And it seems like such a small adjustment, but it's huge. It's huge in helping to ease that anxiety and open the way to personal connection. So do go to whoever is in charge. Whenever you have the opportunity, any of us have the opportunity to write our names on no matter where we are, a badge. Let's start getting in the practice, all of us, of going ahead and making our name large. There will be many people who will never say thank you, who inside are going, oh, I can finally see this person's name. Now I don't have to like get anxious about that. Or with the visual changes that come with some of the forms of dementia, literally not being able to see the small characters. And so we just want to bring up the fact that sometimes there's just the smallest, easiest, really, ultimately, steps that we can take that will help with this kind of settling into conversation. The way that introduction is meant to be, the way with our name, with our the quality of our presence. How do we come into our conversations? So these are a couple of simple suggestions. Are there others, Lisa, that come to your mind, or what raises in your thoughts as I share this?
Yeah, I was thinking about when the diagnosis gets into the later stages,
Mhm.
and perhaps there's that moment where you are in I'm just going to make this up, where you're at a grocery store and your loved one that you're caring for asks the same question over and over of the cashier, and the cashier's maybe getting irritated because they don't know what's happening. So you can always keep a little card that just says, my loved one is struggling with a dementia diagnosis and your patience is greatly needed. Thank you for your grace. And you can hand that to them without your loved one seeing it, of course, just to let them know what's happening. So that, because once they are aware, everything shifts. They're like, oh, okay. Because they're not sure. They're in their work mode. They're in a hurry. We get in our own heads about things. So that's just a really wonderful way to handle And that's not the beginning stages, of course. That's more mid to later stage, but you can handle that really well. I know that a lot of people are finding that their loved ones get anxious, especially traveling strange locations, strange places, and they do use those cards as a way to just say, my loved one has dementia. Just please know that they may ask this question 10 times and, please give them that grace. So that's just another wonderful tip to give. I also want to say I'm really well aware of time, and there's so much in this, just introductions that we could cover for probably 2 hours. But we really want to be mindful of your time, especially those that are care partnering, because we're so aware that your time is limited and you've got a lot going on. So we're going to kind of call it an end. I'm going to invite Sue in case there's anything that's come up for her. But if not, we're just going to say goodbye for today, and then we'll be back again with a new topic. But Sue, is there anything just that stirred for you that you want to share before we say our goodbyes?
So again, with my Lewy body folks in my support group, um, there is usually not an initial problem with memory, but there often is a difficulty with word finding. And so word finding is absolutely um, very common across many forms of dementia. And so I actually have heard some of those with the dementia diagnosis having the cards themselves that you can either get ones that are already printed or print your own. And I'm thinking about how many of the people with Lewy body who they're still so excuse me, so aware, even early on, um, are aware, they know who you are. And so, for those of you who might be listening in who have a dementia diagnosis, if you're early on, you might want to think about creating a card that actually says, because of Lewy body dementia or because of brain changes, you don't even have to identify what form. You could say, because of some brain changes that I'm experiencing, um, I will often have difficulty with finding words. And then you could even put something on there of, please give me all the time I need, right? Because so often people will jump in and try to save the other person, right? But just wanting to say that those cards can be something that those with the dementia might be able to find useful.
Beautiful. I love that. Thanks, Sue.
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for spending this time with us. If you have other situations that you've come across and perhaps you're still wrestling with, wow, I bumped into this situation. Have you heard of anyone else that has struggled with this, and what have they done to ease those introductions? Please reach out anytime. You're going to find our website below and also our private Facebook group. We encourage you to join there. We're going to start opening that up and encouraging conversation there so that you will be meeting others that'll be faced with similar challenges so you can share skills and tools with them also. Thank you so much for being here. And until next time, have a blessed day and hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week. Thanks so much.
Peace for your day. Bye bye now.
Bye.